Hello everyone. In this session, I would like to discuss about the differences between promises and observables. Let me open Visual Studio Code. Just write some differences. First one, creation-wise. Creation. If you want to create a promise, how you can create a promise? By creating an object for the promise class. New promise. Like this. It's take what callback function as an argument. A particular callback function take two arguments. One is like resolve and one is like reject. Finally, this particular new promise returns me what? One promise. So you can hold with one variable like this. So we create an object for the promise class. It's take one callback function as an argument. That callback function called by promise by passing two arguments. Those two arguments are like functions. You can call this resolve if it is like a success. If it is like a failure, you can call this particular one. Like this, you can create a promise. If you want to create an observable, you have to create an object for this particular observable class. Observable class. Okay, it returns me an observable. Observable. Now, this callback function common. Observables also take one callback function as an argument, but here it's not pass like two arguments. It pass only one argument, that is observer. Any name you can put it, observer. It is an object type. It's an object type. Here in the promise, it's like a function types. Both are like a functions. This is like a creation wise the difference. The way of using uses. The next one is like uses. Okay, how we can use this one? Uses. If any promise, any method returns a promise, if you have a promise, then how we can handle it? My promise dot then by using then or catch we can handle it. My promise we can handle by using then we can my then first function. It's like a success callback. Whenever you call resolve, this function is going to execute. The next one is like a catch. You can write like a catch. Whenever this particular resolve is going to execute it, then that time this catch callback method is going to execute. If you have a promise, if any method returns a promise, then how we can handle the promise means by using then as well as by using catch. Here, catch, if you don't want to write, inside the then you can write one more callback function that is working like a failure callback. So the way of handling the promise like this. The way of handling the observable, how you know this is my observable. If you have an observable, you can use by using subscribe. By using subscribe, we can handle it. The subscribe which take two callback functions. One is like to handle the success. Another one is like to handle the failure callback. Like this we can. This is the uses. The next one is like single value and multi-value. Single and multi. Which one returns a single value, which one returns a multi-value means my promise always returns a single value. It's like only one event is going to trigger. For example, this resolve is there. If you call resolve multiple times, resolve like this 10, again you call like resolve, okay, another value is like 20. Again you call like result, okay, another value is like 30. If you call multiple times this callback methods, okay, it will never consider except the first one. It's returns or it gives like only one event only is going to trigger, one event only, single value only it's going to give to the handler. Which handler? Either it's like a then callback function or catch callback function. So multiple times you return resolve and result, but the resolve only it's considered. Resolve you are calling is nothing but my promise first function is going to execute by passing some data, then that time you can handle the data like this. But if you take the observable. Inside this one, you are using this observer how many times? Observer dot next. It's working like a resolve. How many times you can write any number of times. Okay, this is one value. The next one, this is another value. This is another value. Okay, this is like error. See, it is not like only one. It's not like considered only one. How many times you call the next, that many times my subscriber first method is going to execute by passing the data. How many times you are calling like error, that many times my subscriber second method is going to call. That means it's like a multi-value it's going to return or not. That is like single and multi. The next one, lazy and Jaeger. Jaeger and lazy. Okay, what is this lazy and what is this Jaeger? The promise we can say like a Jaeger. The promise we can say like a Jaeger, and my observable we can say like this is the promise, right? Jaeger, and my observable we can say like a lazy. What this Jaeger and what this lazy means? See, here only I want to show you. This is the promise you created. Here I'm going to write one console message, console.log of, console.log of. Okay, here you can write callback. This is the callback, right? Call. The same console message. Here also I'm going to write. Here also I'm going to write. Here also I'm going to write. Okay. Now, once my promise created, now you can use that promise by using then. Okay. So how we can use that one? How we can use that one? My promise dot by using then you can use it. By using then you can use it. If I execute this code, what happened? First, my promise created. At the time of creating the promise itself, this particular function called. Okay, that means before using only, before handling only, my promise callback method is going to call whatever the statements are going to executed. Okay, that statements, first statement is what? CB called executed. The next multiple events triggered, but only one event is going to consider. So my resolve also execute. It's waiting for the handling. Okay, whenever you handle that particular promise by using then the time my resolve already executed. So my then first method, first callback method is going to execute by passing this data. So at the time of loading only, at the time of loading, at the time creating my promise itself, my promise call this callback function, whatever the statements are there, that statements will execute. So that we can say like it's a Jaeger. Okay, once it is executed, my result is waiting for what? Handling. Once my promise dot then you handle my callback function. Which callback function? My callback function is like, okay, resolve is nothing but then first callback. The data we can get it. The data we can get it. Here you can write like my log of your data. So my final output is like first callback is going to call. The next one is like my resolve already waiting. So whenever you are using then handle with function, first function, then the time my resolve is going to call that callback function by passing the data. So which data 10 is going to print? 10 is going to print. Now the same thing if you come here, observable. Whenever my observable you created, then the time my observable will never call this function, will never call this callback function. When it is going to call, whenever you handle that observable, like this, observable dot subscribe, then that time only my callback function is going to call. My callback function is going to call then only. That means whenever the statement executed, then only my CB call, then only my CB callback is going to call, and then these particular statements, whatever the statements are there. Okay, this one next is nothing but this next observable dot next is nothing but what? First callback is going to execute. Again observer dot next callback is going to execute. Observer dot error is nothing but another callback. Two callback methods you can write for. Success is one, another one is like failure. So it is like at the time of creating a promise, the callback function is going to call. It's like a Jaeger. Okay, whenever at the time of creating the observable, it's not called this callback. Whenever you are using, then only this callback is going to call. So that it's like a lazy. The next one. multicast, and unicast. Unicast. Okay, means see here. Promise dot then you called. Again, if you call this one, always, for example, here one random number is there. Math dot random. For example, one random number you created like this. Think like that. Now see here, you created one promise. Okay, at the time of creating the promise only my function executed. So my console.log is going to print it. At the time of creating only it's printed. At the time of handling this particular one, okay, whatever you are resolve, whatever the callback method you call, that is waiting for the handler. So my resolve is nothing but what? Success callback with random value. What is my random value? For example, 10. Okay, for example, 10. Then what happened? Whenever you call, whenever you handle that promise, then the term, what is my random value? Resolve with random value 10. So the resolve is nothing but first callback executed with 10 value. Again, if you call, then the time already this function executed. First time load only this function is going to execute it. How many times you are handling this particular promise? Here, based on your returning the value, which callback you call, resolve, right? So that every time my 10 first callback function is going to execute. Okay, this particular function executed only one time, so callback is going to call. How many times you are handling, that many times this resolve is there, right? This resolve, okay, this resolve is nothing but first callback of my 10 is going to execute. So my math dot random, how many times it's going to execute this function? Only one time, only one value. It's going to casting like multiple times or not. Here also casting 10, here also casting 10. But the same thing if you come here, if you write here math dot random, like this, then what happened? This callback will not execute at first time. When it's going to execute? Whenever you subscribe, then only it's going to execute or not. How many times? Okay, first subscribe, this is going to execute. Then the time my math dot random value is like 10. Again, subscribe you're using. Whenever you're using subscribe, again my callback function is going to execute. Then the time my math dot random value is going to change or not. So for every subscription, okay, each and every time it's going to give like a unique value or not. So that here promise casting the same value multiple times, so that it's like a multicast. And my observable, each and every time it's going to give like a single value, so that it's called as a unicast. That is the one. The next one, okay, non-cancelable versus, okay, cancelable. Once my promise you executed here, for example, once you promise this particular function is there, this particular function is not in your hand. Okay, not in your hand. When it's going to call my promise, whenever you call this promise, then only this function is going to call. For example, here you resolve, okay, you can write like one set timeout. Here you can write one callback function. That function is going to return the value, success callback or failure callback after 5 seconds. Now see here. First this function loaded. So my callback is going to call. After 5 seconds only, it returns a success result 5000 or not. That means to return this success result, how much time it will take? 5000 milliseconds in the 5 seconds. Meanwhile, I am not able to cancel this promise. Okay, once this callback executed, it's not in your hand to cancel it. But the same code, if you return here in the observable, the same code, if you return like this, here you can write like my observer dot next of 10. Here, once my observable created, when my observer is going to start, okay, this is the subscription, then the time this function is going to execute. After 5 seconds only, my observer dot next is going to emit the value or not. It's take like 5 seconds. In between, you can write like my observable dot unsubscribe also. If you unsubscribe like this, then that time this observer dot next will not emit the value. Okay, after 5 seconds only, right? It's going to emit this value. It's going to give this value back. Meanwhile, what you did, you unsubscribe it, so that it's going to cancel that particular observable dot next emit value. So that My observer is like a cancelable. My promise is not a cancelable. These are the differences. If you want to get some more information, go to our website uijavakit.com. Just click on this promises versus observables. Okay, how to create, you can see. How to use, you can see. The next one is like single value, multi-value, they casted, eager and lazy. The next one is like non-cancelable and cancelable, and multi-cast value and unique cast value. All these things you can find in this website. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching.